iPhone? More like my phone, is what someone says after they've infected your phone with PegaSus Spyware. Yeah, see, so in the last week or so, or even before that, like if you've been paying attention, PegaSus Spyware has been in the news a lot. So there have been a lot of articles that have come out and stuff like that, and with the help of Amnesty International that we'll look into, there's a lot of very detailed reports that actually dictate how, the ideologies behind how the spyware actually functions to an extent, how it gets on your mobile and stuff like that. And I was quite interested in that, so I thought I'd make a quick video. What I will be looking at is just basically, the entities involved. So we'll just quickly look at who is or who are Forbidden Stories, number one, Amnesty International, number two, and then NSO Group, the third accused party in this situation. And then I wanted to dive into a very detailed report that Amnesty International came out with, and it's called the methodologies, or it just looks at the methodologies that um, the PegaSus spyware uses to infect mobile phones. And it's quite interesting. We won't go into very detailed explanations because number one, it will take too long and I am not the right person to do that. Number two, it a lot of it cannot be done in the sense it uses something called 0-day exploits, which literally I'll repeat this later on as well, but which literally means we don't know how exactly they're doing this. So that's the plan, at least for this video. We'll jump straight into it because I don't really want to spend too much time just messing around. So we'll just start off straight away. So we'll start off with the three entities, or the story behind this whole spyware, right? From the 18th of July, when the PegaSus project, the article itself, was put up on the internet, right? So now this was put up by an entity called Forbidden Stories. Now, this entity is a group of journalists. Now, the journalists themselves in this specific organization have one specific goal, right? It is to carry out providing any story where the journalists themselves might come under or face threats of prison, murder, or like any sort of threats, basically. So there's a very good sentence or statement that embodies what they actually intend to be. So I'll read it out really quickly, and I'm quoting this from their website, and I'll also put in a photo if I can. The sentence reads, "Killing the journalist won't kill the story. We are a network of journalists whose mission is to protect, pursue, and publish the work of other journalists facing threats, prison, or murder. It is the only existing program with this mission." Now, I feel like that sentence just encompasses what they want to do and what they mean. I feel like it's not hard to understand. But yeah, so how this all started, from what I understand, is PegaSus spyware being detected on journalists' phones. So that's I believe how it all started, and the initial date, or the earliest known indication that this spyware existed, was in 2016. Now, I feel like that's all the information I really care about, just because I don't want to dive into what the journalism side of it, because I feel like that's a whole other video that someone else should do if they're interested in, because there's a lot of content there. We will jump straight into the technical side. So now, from what I understand, Forbidden Stories has advised very clearly that they have used the technical assistance of an organization called Amnesty International. Now, Amnesty International themselves are a human rights organization of sorts. So they fight for human rights, and that's great. I like my rights. I'm a human. Cool. Very epic. Um, so yeah, that's what they are. And these are the individuals. So Amnesty International are the people that have put insanely thorough um, reports, let's call it, or articles, dictating every single IOC or indicators of compromise that they have seen, and then also tied it back to an ideology, or like just tied it back to how they think the Pegasus process works, or how it actually works. Now, saying this, I feel like now, like all of this is just allegation, right? So it's not 100% fact in the sense no one's come out saying you are guilty, you are not guilty, any of the sorts. So this is like an international thing. I don't know how it's going to be resolved. There's a lot of politics to it. I do not want to get into the politics. We will just look at the tech. But we've looked at two entities, which is number one, Forbidden Stories. Again, that's the group of journalists. Number two, the Human Rights Organization, which is Amnesty International. These are the individuals that looked into the tech. Now, these are the two organizations that are the accusers. These two organizations accuse another organization called NSO Group for creating and misusing or creating this PegaSus spyware and providing it to governments that it shouldn't have, or something of the sorts. Like I feel like I will link all this to the description, so you have a read and then you make a judgment call based on your reading, because I don't want to say anything that it's if it could just be my perspective or how I understand things when it's just English literature and politics. So I'm just going to say, yeah. So these two organizations accusing a group called NSO, an organization called the NSO Group. Now, what is the NSO Group? The NSO Group is a cyber intelligence organization. What does that mean? So cyber intelligence organizations generally provide intelligence in the cybersphere, and this generally associates with cybersecurity. So imagine cyber warfare. If there exists cyber warfare, you need weapons to fight this war. Now, cyber intelligence provides you with the weapons. So companies like NSO Group looks at systems, finds vulnerabilities, makes tools, and provides it to the government or to a government, and that's how they make their money. That's the business model, from what I understand. So that's the trifecta of the organizations involved, from what I understand. I will link all of their websites to the description. You can go have a look. If I said anything wrong or I did not understand it correctly, I apologize. Correct me. All good, no stress. But what I would like to focus on for most of this video, or like all of this video, the remainder of this video, is a single report, which is the forensic methodology report that Amnesty International came out with on the 18th of July, which was, I believe, last Monday or Sunday. I'm not sure. But yeah, so this report contains the indicators of compromise that Amnesty International was able to pull from infected phones, and it also is then they're able to tie it back to what the actual process could be or was. And that I thought was very cool. It also does go very detailed in certain aspects, and it's very convoluted, so I will stick to the easy the easy way of explaining things on a very high level, just so that we all can understand and part ways. So in saying that, there is a Black Hat YouTube video that I will link in the description, which was, I think, Black Hat 2016, but they display the PegaSus spyware on Apple phones being actively deployed, and they actually break down the exploit into multiple segments, and they show it very well. So I'll link that in the description for people that really just want to see the tech part of it, or the detailed just coding part of it. I think it's really cool. I got lost midway because they were like going into kernel level stuff, and I was just like, what? Yeah, so that was cool. If you're into it, great. If you understand it, whoa, very cool. Holy shit. But yeah, so we'll start with the very basics, right, of the methodology report that Amnesty International provided. So, look, the first question that comes to mind for this spyware is how does it actually get on to the device, right? So there's two ways. We'll divide it by time frame. The initial time frame we will count from 2016, so the first ever recorded PegaSus spyware that has been disclosed to us, to 2018. So between 2016 to 2018, the method of intrusion was spearfishing. Now, if you don't know what spearfishing means, we'll start from scratch. Phishing, which is with a PH, is basically the act of sending you an email or sending you some sort of message with a link attached to it, enticing you to tap or open that URL in your specified or in your available browser, so that I am able to execute code or get data, whatever, from your device. Now, that's the overarching idea of phishing. Now, you can actually just have a quick example as well. If you go into your email and your spam folder, I'm pretty sure you will be able to find some sort of phishing email. It's the most generic stuff. If you've ever received an email from like Amazon saying you've won like $500,000 or something of the sorts, that is what phishing is. Once you click that link, it might just be like asking for your password again, where you enter your password and username, it grabs your password, sends it to someone else, not really Amazon. But it could also be more, what would you say, more advanced, where it maybe grabs all your cookies from your browser, maybe executes code, stuff like that. So that's the idea of phishing. Sends you a very enticing message, tries to maybe push you to press a link, maybe a bit enticing, stuff like that. So phishing in general is I would say a very numbers game, because the context of the message is very general. So you would generally send a message to a lot of people and expect very few to respond, but even if those few do provide the action required, so they click on the link, it is still very good for you, because you then it's like a cost benefit, and like you're not losing anything by sending a lot of emails out, but you're also there's a higher chance of success the more people you send it out to, so it's not very targeted. Okay, so now we know what phishing is. If we go to spearfishing, now it's a variation of the same thing, and in the overarching ideologies, it's almost the same thing, but spearfishing is much more targeted. It's no longer a numbers game. We are trying to target very specific people or a single individual, and that's the main difference. You're still sending them a link to be clicked or something of the sort, so the user still has to open something up on their browser, and that's how it executes. But it is generally more enticing, or the quality of the context is much more relevant to that individual. So it'll be like, let's say for example, every time you log on to your Google account on a new device, if you have set your Gmail or Google, like with all the security notifications, generally you receive an email notification stating, hey, you've logged into this new device, this location, this time, is this really you? Now let's say you log into a new device using your same Google account, but instead of receiving a Gmail notification, you receive an SMS text with a link. Now, just because we are so used to looking at the same message when we log in, it's possible that you might just miss it if it's an SMS or a Gmail notification or what it is, and just click the link. Now, when you've clicked the link, you've basically just lost the battle. It's very hard to revert that initial click, and that's the point, right? So if you're more likely to open the link, that's the better it is. So spearfishing just targets you a bit better, in the sense like it's all tailored towards you or a very specific target audience. And that's the idea and the difference between spearfishing and just phishing. Okay, so right now on your screen you should be able to see the actual examples of SMS texts that were sent to journalists, and this is the type of spearfishing I am talking about. So now you can actually see these are very targeted approaches that, like, the individual is more likely to um, click on. The first one is an app called Truecaller, and it's just like, oh, if you have the app, it is possible that, like, oh, you might just tap the link just to see, oh, who checked my name. The second one is a scandal. So the target here is the human rights defender, and very clearly we are targeting the context of the second message. So it's a moral scandal inside a certain area in a certain district, and there's a video. And yeah, so like it's a very targeted approach. So like let's say the job title, like the individual's associated what's it called, skill set is human rights defender. Now look, you can see like what, two, three, yeah, two of the links, or two of the messages are human rights based, I would assume. um, and or like it's, you understand the concept, right? So it's more towards what the individual would open, and that's the whole point. It's not generic like, oh yeah, you're gonna win 10,000 like dollars or whatever. So yeah, and that's it. That's the whole point. So I just wanted to show this to you guys because I thought it was quite nice. But yeah, cool. So from 2016 to 2018, the main method of getting this spyware onto mobile devices was the act of spearfishing. So now, what happens after you've, like, let's say someone sends a spearfishing SMS, text, WhatsApp message, whatever it may be. Once you click the message, there are a lot of possible scenarios explained in the article. They stem from man-in-the-middle attacks, where someone intercepts your message or your browser request between you and your DNS provider, and then maliciously redirects you to different places, so that specific things can be downloaded onto your profile or your mobile. Sorry. And or it also can go to DNS spoofing and DNS probing, where like you have incorrect records at your closest DNS, and it's pretty insane. But what they're trying to do is, once you tap on your spearfishing link on your phone creates a process which is called the bridgehead. Now, the bridgehead, or what they've named it, the bridgehead is basically an installer. So an installer that sits on your phone, and then when the appropriate time arrives, it will contact a command and control server over in the internet. And using that command and control server, it will request the appropriate files to be downloaded and installed on your device to make your device a fully fledged spyware. And that's the idea, from what I understood using this article, right? I will again put this in the description. Read it. It's great. I feel like it's a good read. If you can understand it, it's beautiful. But yeah, that's the idea. So we'll start from like zero again. So you get the spearfish text, SMS, WhatsApp message, click on it. You are then embedded with a process, which in this case we will call a bridgehead. The bridgehead process is an installer. The process itself sends out requests to a command and control server over in the internet, and then downloads the required packages and installs it on your phone to make your phone a spyware, or just like basically to make your phone spy on you, which is just, yeah, it's just there. Now that is the underlying idea of how this works, right? At least from 2016 to 2018. Now, see, this is not. I wouldn't say it's very new, in the sense, like the spearfishing. Fair enough. The actual spyware, very intense. Jesus Christ, like that's all like 0 day stuff. So what I mean by 0 day is the manufacturer themselves did not know that the vulnerability existed. Therefore, it could not be patched at the time. Now, this is very important, right? Because even if you like use and follow best practices in the industry, the manufacturer of the device and or application is unaware that a certain vulnerability exists, and therefore even best practices cannot save you at that point in time. So what it comes down to is mitigating that first step, so the spearfishing step. You need to be very self-aware with your technology at that stage to not click the link. That's the underlying situation there, because once you click the link, it's almost as if the phone is kind of written off at that point, right? um that's the underlying part. So it's still like preventable in a sense. So if it's just like identifying spam and what's not spam. It's being able to differentiate between the same, and it's not very easy, for sure, especially when it's targeted to you specifically. And in this case, it seems like it was, because apparently it was just targeted towards certain individuals, journalists, government officials, and stuff like that. But yeah, so sadly, this is not the scary bit. So now, see, we've talked about 2016 to 2018, right? Now, what happens next is 2019 and 2021. Now, within this time frame, um, there's it gets very scary. Let's just put it that way. Um, Now we know what 0 day vulnerabilities are. 0 day, again, the government, I mean the manufacturer does not know the vulnerability exists and therefore cannot patch it. This can be for a hardware device like Apple, and I mean like yeah, whatever your manufacturer is, or can be for a software device, software application, so like Facebook, WhatsApp, any other application, I don't, yeah, whatever. Instagram, yeah. So now we have 0 day, but now in 2019, they started implementing 0 click and 0 day. So now the combination of these two makes a very dangerous um, pair, let's say. So we know what 0 day is. Now, what is a 0 click? Now, 0 click is basically, what it means is zero user intervention. So in the previous type, like spearfishing for example, the user still had to click the link or open the link in their specified browser. If you don't open the link, you are not affected, because the process or the code does not run on your browser. So there's nothing, no process created. It's safe. But now with 0 click vulnerabilities, you don't have to do anything. You get a message, you are then spyware is downloaded. Think of it that way, right? Now, yeah, so basically that's it, right? So the 0 click vulnerability bit makes this so much more dangerous than the spear than like any normal spyware or anything, any malware or anything of the sorts. The only reason being is that the user no longer needs to raise a finger to be affected. There's no more social engineering. There's no more text. I mean, there's no more. The user does not matter anymore, because there's literally almost no way you can protect yourself. If you have this specific app and your mobile phone is vulnerable, you can then be easily targeted with this 0 click. Now, as I say that, I've seen a lot of people online, and there are certain ways to maybe reduce the like, let's say, probability of you getting actually affected by 0 click attacks, but the only way that's possible is like let's say if it's a 0 click and a 0 day, is to remove the app itself from your phone. Now, how, like, the only way you do that is to find substitution apps, right? So, for example, your browsers are able to run multiple apps that you would normally have. So, let's say your Instagram, your Gmail, all these apps can be run through your Chrome browser. Though it will be a bit more janky, this removes the app completely from your phone. And see, technically speaking, that is a valid way of mitigating some form of risk. But see, it comes at a cost. It depends, like, what do you want? Do you want functionality, or do you want the possibility of like someone looking into your data and just collecting everything that you have on your phone, right? So in the end, it's like there is relatively no way of being safe where you get to have the functionality that you have right now. Oh, like you could have very smooth functionality, but in terms of safety and security, with this specific mobile spyware, I myself do not see any way to keep yourself safe. It, just because we're dealing with 0 days, and then we're dealing with 0 clicks. So user education does nothing. You could be the most educated, smartest person in the world, but if you have this app that even you don't know has a vulnerability, or no one knows, or no one with good intentions knows that this has a vulnerability, it can be compromised, and that's the risk, right? Because then the only person that's in charge of your data is yourself. Now, with such vulnerabilities, um, I believe um, Amnesty International did attach a mobile verification toolkit, which is basically a toolkit that runs using the Android debug program and looks through the Android or iOS platform just to look at indicators of compromise from the PegaSus malware, just to see if your phone has been affected or not. So this is available online and you can download it. I'll put the link in the description. So if you feel like you may, or you just want to check if you have been compromised or your phone is compromised by this spyware, you can download the um, GitHub files, and then if you have Python, I think 3.6 on your system, you can just run the app and connect your phone and just like maybe export, import, run the scan, see if there are any indicators of compromise, check your phone. So that is available. That's pretty good. But in terms of securing yourself, like we normally thought we would, like maybe putting up like there's no firewall and stuff that can block this. This is like legal, like in terms of firewall rules, it's legal applications, legal ports. It's just this is just very intense and very high level. So I will leave it at that. Now, again, if you've reached this far in the video, great, but if you have time, I would strongly suggest that you read the articles that are attached in the description, just because they give you a far more in-depth understanding of what's actually happening. Um, and just maybe I missed something. You can maybe pick up on that and then let me know as well. So yeah, I please have a read if you can. It's everyone's data, and at this point, your data is probably more important than you. I would say it's more worth than you, at least. It's not more important, but like monetary wise, yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's about it for this one. I will leave you to it then. But thank you so much for watching. If you liked, like, comment, and subscribe. If you didn't,